The sovereignty of rupture. The title of this podcast is Lome 2025, Africa's Urgency and the Trap of Long-Term Consensus. Estimated hour 8 to 10 minutes. Hello and welcome to the show. Today we plunge into an existential debate for Africa. Should the continent continue to negotiate sovereignty or should it finally take it? In December 2025, the 9th Panafrican Congress in Lome reaffirmed the need to reform global institutions. A noble goal, but one that has sparked a radical critique by focusing on sovereignty in the long term. Did the Congress betray the continent's urgency? The answer lies in two powerful concepts. The first, COAFRWO-UK, the African science of refundation. The second is CIADA or ECCAD, the condition existentielle of African and African descent globally. Condition existentielle des Africains et Africains descendants dans le monde. Well, CIADA is proof that the crisis is not merely a recession. It is the existential threat, the insecurity, economic alienation, and systemic injustices experienced by Black people worldwide, from the Sahel to the diaspora. And this condition demands a response of rupture, not a consensus. Let's analyze the flaw in Lome approach. We call it the projective colonial presence. Well, the prism is the tendency of African elite to frame the solution to continent's problems as powerful or successful integration into a global system whose rules were defined without or against Africa, according to Frantz Fanon. Projecting legitimacy, Lome's insistence on the reform of multilateral institutions, seeking a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, is the clearest expression of this prism. It projects Africa's legitimacy onto the acceptance of the West. This action facilitates epistemicide by assimilation. By prioritizing validation within the existential global order, it affirms that Western frameworks, liberal democracies, international laws, financial capitalism are the only universal valid ones. This subtle epistemicide, according to Mudimbe, doesn't ban African knowledge. It makes it practically useless, but for solving real problems. Why develop indigenous governance models if the ultimate goal is UN approval? Well, COAFRWO-UK demands the opposite. The deprojection. Sovereignty is not granted. It must be taken and imposed through self-determination. This is the only way to immediately secure the justice, dignity, and restoration demanded by the CIADA. Section 2. The PAP versus PCA. The response to the CIADA. This dilemma is concretely manifest in the parliamentary model prudence versus rupture. Let's say on one side, the Pan-African Parliament, PAP, embodying Lome's approach. This is the institution of slow consensus. Its powers are largely consultative, dependent on the goodwill of 55 capitals. It symbolizes an Africa that continues to negotiate its survival. Let's say on the other side, we have the proposed Confederational African Parliament, which is the PCA, championed by the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. The PCA is not a negotiation, it is an act of immediate fusion of political and military sovereignty. Let's say we remember the Ouagadougou Declaration of 2024. The PCA is the faithful translation of the SIADA's urgency. It responds to existential threats by proposing a qualitative and structural leap. This project seeks to create a new sovereign center capable of immediate ensuring the security and dignity of its people. This difference in action leaves no room for diplomatic slowness. Section 3. Projective Neocolonial Revolutions. This leads us to the projective neocolonial revolutions that the Lome Congress risk embodying. These are changes presented as radical, but which, in reality, modernize and stabilize the structures of dependence, thereby prolonging the SIADA. Take the economy. Lome calls for the mobilization of internal resources. When we think about Walter Rodney in 1972, he talked about it. Necessary, yes, but if this mobilization occurs within financial and monetary frameworks like the franc CFA or debt system structurally designed for capital fleet, it only makes the exploitation more efficient and durable. The revolution is projective because it optimizes dependence instead of dismantling it. By prioritizing the long term of multilateral reform, Lome implicitly justified the ambient epistemicide. First of all, it justifies inaction in the face of urgency, reserving the long-haul debate for Africans while external actors manage the crisis. Secondly, it justifies the competence and legitimacy are measured by achieving external standards, reinforcing the notion that African models are inherently insufficient. When we think about what Togo mentioned in 1986. In conclusion, the urgence of SIADA is the ultimate argument. It allows for no half measure the projective colonial prism of Lome, if no overcome, will transform legitimate aspiration into a mere projective neocolonial revolution. COAFRWO urges us to move from the rhetoric of consensus to the strategy of immediate confederation, the PCA. The survival of Africans and their descendants is the final yardstick to leave no room for diplomatic prudence. There is no more time for the world to grant us a place. It is time to act and create the world that is owned by us. Thank you for listening. Find our complete bibliography on our website to delve deeper into coafrology and the urgency of the theater. See you next time for our next episode. Ubuntu Kama. Bye now.